good morning, or afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're choosing to watch this. This is our Sunday evening series that we have been doing. Last week, we kind of flip-flopped it just a little bit. It's no longer for a while going to be questions that Jesus asked. We're going to be looking at questions God asked, at least through probably the end of November. And tonight, our text is coming out of Micah chapter 6, verses 3 through 8. The key verse there is, "My people, what have I done to you? How have I burdened you? Answer me." You ever have someone you love grow distant? Someone that you were really close to. Now when you see them, it's fist bumps and head nods. If you have ever experienced that in the slightest amount, then you have a taste of the ache that is in God's voice right here. My people, what have I done to you? How have I burdened you? These words were not thunder, they were heartbreak. Israel was still going through the motions, sacrificing, still attending worship, still doing the quote-unquote religious things, but their hearts were gone. They had wandered away. God isn't shouting at them in anger. He's whispering through tears. And if you've ever had that moment with a family member, with a child, with a friend that was a family member, you know the types I'm talking about. And you're blubbering, "What have I done to you?" Imagine a child asking his parent, "When did loving me start to feel like work, Dad?" That is the tone. God's not scolding his people. He's longing for them. And that same God who asked this question some 2,700 years ago is asking us that same thing today. What happened? When did my joy become a must-do, a duty? Number one, when worship begins to feel like a burden, you need to reevaluate yourself. Israel's story has drifted into the routine. The prophets, the priests, and the people, all of them began treating worship like it's an item to check off the list. They still believed in God. They did, I promise you. But they had lost their wonderment of God. And so through Micah, the Lord opens his heart. "My people," he asks, "what have I done to you? How have I burdened you?" He's asking, have I been too demanding? Did I make your life harder? When did my grace stop being enough? And we know that feeling. Somewhere between "I love you, Lord," and I got to wake up and go to church. I got to wake up and I got to go hear Alex speak. Man, I feel for my family. They got to hear me speak at home and here. That's a conundrum for a different story. The songs that we once sang with joy become words that we sort of mouth out of habit. The Bible becomes homework instead of our lifeline. And serving can become draining instead of fulfilling. And I need you to know, God's not angry that we're tired. He just doesn't want us to forget why we started following him in the first place. If it feels heavy right now, if your faith feels heavy, God's question isn't about condemnation. It's an invitation. He's saying literally, "Come remember who I am." Secondly, we need to remembering the rescue. In the next verses, God then reminds his people of his faithfulness. In Micah chapter 6, verse 4, "I brought you up out of Egypt and redeemed you from that land of slavery. I sent Moses to lead you." He's recounting their story. The miracles and the deliverances, the times he showed up when they did not deserve it. He's saying, "Look, I've been good to you. Haven't I loved you?" Every believer has their own Egypt story, a place God brought you out of. Maybe it was addiction. Maybe it was a season of fear or shame. Maybe it was simply the darkness of living in this world without a shred of hope. God is saying, "Do not forget when I found you." When we forget what we have been saved from, worship is going to feel like a burden. Showing up here Sunday mornings is going to feel like a burden when you could sit at home. And I get it. You know, we're coming into the winter months. These are my favorite months to sit at home with a pot of chili, some coffee, and just relax. I get it. But when we forget, again, what we have been saved from, worship is going to continuously and always feel like a burden. Think about that person that gets a second chance after a heart attack. Every single sunrise begins to feel like a gift. Now, imagine forgetting that moment and complaining again about traffic or about your iced coffee being delivered to you hot. That's what spiritual forgetfulness does. It turns our grace that we have into a grind, the daily grind of religious life. Wake up, say prayer, look at this, say a prayer before our food, be nice to people. God reminds his people, I redeemed you. I saved you. And he reminds us, I have never been the problem. You just started to stop forgetting the rescue. Thirdly, it becomes that way when religion replaces relationship. After God asks his question, the people answer sarcastically. With what shall I come before the Lord? Shall I come with burnt offerings or calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with 1,000 rams or 10,000 rivers of olive oil? They're basically saying, fine, God, what do you want from us? More sacrifices? More stuff? I mean, that's the most kid thing I've ever heard. That's like dealing with teenagers. And then God says, he has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God in Micah 6, verse 8. In other words, I do not want your rituals, family. I do not want your habits. I want your relationship. Justice, mercy, humility. These are not ceremonial acts. They are character traits born out of having that relationship with God. Born out of having that connection. Micah 6:8 is not just a new set of rules, though. It's a summary of God's heartbeat. Act justly. Treat people right because you walk with the God. Treat people right because you walk with the righteous one. Love mercy. Let grace be your reflex, not your exception. Grace needs to be how it happens immediately. It doesn't have to be something you think about. It's just what happens. Walk humbly. Stay close enough to God that pride never gets the lead. You know, God's not asking for more offerings. God's not asking for more things. He's asking for a surrendered heart that reflects his own. And then worship becomes a burden when God's people, they forget his heart. When Israel forgot God's goodness, they distorted his image. They began to believe that God wanted endless sacrifices and performance. The truth is, God's commands are never meant to crush us. They're meant to center us on him. Imagine teaching your children how to ride a bike. The rules. Keep your hands on the handlebars. Watch where you're going. That's the biggest thing. Do that. Because they're not burdens. They're boundaries to protect them. But sometimes the children only see limits, whereas the parent sees safety. In the same way, God gives us commands. He's not restricting our joy. He's protecting it. When we see his boundaries as burdens, we tend to lose sight of his love. So when God asks, what have I done to you? He's trying to restore that picture of himself. He's saying, I haven't chained you. I freed you. I haven't burdened you. I've blessed you. You see, Micah's prophecy then points forward. Some 700 years later, Jesus would walk amongst the people who made the same mistake. The religious leaders of the time, turning faith into formulas, into law-keeping. Love was no longer a part of it. And they added some 700 or 800 different rules on top of the rules that were already given. to make it even more intense. And what did he say? Matthew chapter 11, verses 28. Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Again, that's God's heart all over again. The same question, a new setting. Why do you act like I'm here to weigh you down? I came to lift you up. The cross is the ultimate proof that God has never been a burden. He's always been the one carrying our burden for us. Maybe you've been walking through a season where your faith feels like a work, where prayer feels dry, worship feels hollow, ministry feels like it's exhausting. Listen to the voice of God today. It's not scolding, it's not soft. My child, what have I done to you? How have I burdened you? If you begin to pause long enough, you realize God hasn't. Life has. Personal stress has. Expectations have. But God's the one saying, hey, let me give you rest again. We need to rediscover gratitude. Start each day listing 3 things that God has done for you, remembering that rescue, remembering your own Egypt story. We need to simplify our walk. Faith is not about keeping score. It's about keeping company with the Lord. And then also we need to serve with joy. Micah 6:8 was never meant to be a drain to you. It was meant to direct us. When you act justly and you love mercy and you walk humbly, you're walking in the rhythm of God's own heart. Act justly. Love mercy. Walk humbly. God's question still echoes amongst you. My people, what have I done to you? He's not, I tell you, he's not seeking an answer. He's trying to direct you. If your worship has become weary, if obedience feels like obligation, hear him calling you back to simplicity, to the first love when his presence was enough. Maybe the real response, it's not even words at all, it's just surrender. Imagine God standing before you, not angry, but brokenhearted, asking softly, when did my grace stop feeling like good news? Maybe let your heart whisper back to him, Lord, I remember now you never burdened me. I was merely blessed by you. You see, that's the turning point Micah wanted for Israel and for us. When your faith feels heavy, remember, it's not that God has changed. It's because we forgot his goodness. This week, remind yourself of what God has done for you so that our worship can once again feel like gratitude. And then act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with joy. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. We love you so much. God bless.